Hey there, freedom fighters. My name is Andrew Warner. I'm the founder of Mixergy, where I interview entrepreneurs about how they built their businesses. And one of my favorite entrepreneurs who I've gotten to know because I live here in San Francisco is Anthony, the founder of Hack Reactor. I just invited him over for scotch, and he came over to my house for dinner, and I love this business model. The business model behind Hack Reactor was, hey, the world needs more developers. I'm going to create developers. I'll actually do it in this obsessive way. And I'm an obsessive person, so I get it. His obsessive way was, let's bring them into one place, have them sit here and treat it kind of like a cult, the cult of development, the cult of get your work done, and make them live and breathe this. And if they do that, if they buy into this world, they're going to become phenomenal developers, and they'll be excited for having done this, and then they'll go out and get work. That was the promise. That's what he built. And I checked with locals, since I live here in San Francisco, where they're a bunch of their graduates. I checked with their graduates. Their graduates feel that, yeah, they love the place. And I'm amazed that it's a hugely successful business. Well, since the Hack Reactor interview that I did, not with Tony, but with someone else at the company, they have been on a roll where they were buying companies. And today we're going to meet the founder of one of the companies that they bought. It's called MakerSquare. They also create developers, just not in the same San Francisco Bay Area. And the other thing that happened, and this I didn't find out through Anthony, didn't find out through today's guest, but through others who I've gotten to know here in the space, the world of teaching people how to be developers was quickly profitable, allowed a few companies to grow really big, and then something happened and the industry went through a tough period and people lost money. Some of the businesses closed up. I want to find out how Hack Reactor fared through all that. All right. So the guest we're about to meet is Harsh Patel. He is the founder of MakerSquare, and today he is the CEO of Hack Reactor. Hack Reactor creates software engineers and they help them get work. This interview is sponsored by two companies. You're going to know the first one. It's the place where you hire developers, called TopTal. And you're going to think the second one's name is a little bit odd. And I finally have an explanation for what it means. It's a conference called Baby Bathwater. I'll explain what that means in a moment and why I'm talking about them. First, Harsh, good to see you here.
Good to see you too. Nice to be here.
Hey, last time I did a Hack Reactor interview, I think you guys were at 7.5 million in sales. What's the revenue like today?
Right, a little north of $20
million.
That's right.
And it's in-person training, but you guys also have an online component. What percentage of the business is the new online component?
I would say it fluctuates somewhere between 10 and 20%.
That's it. So mostly we're talking about an in-person experience that people come in, and how long do they go through the program?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. Is it still as intense as I remember it, where people would basically, I don't know that they would live there, but they would kind of live there?
Yeah, it still is. Less people live there now than before.
But did anyone actually live in your office?
Okay. There's a couple stories where, out of the thousands of grads, one or two we later found out they did, but we didn't know because we expected students to stay until 11 or midnight and come back at 8, 9 in the morning. So no one
would know if they happen to sleep in the office for the few hours in between. Wow. Exactly. All right. So I want to know about how you created MakerSquare. And the thing that intrigues me about this whole business is there wasn't much investment in it. Right?
Yeah.
When you started it, what did it take to actually launch, beyond getting students, and we'll talk about that, but to actually create this business, what did it take?
For us, it took essentially 4 really motivated guys and a bunch of hard work. Putting up the website. In terms of financial actual capital, I think the 4 of us just put in money and to buy South by Southwest tickets, because we started MakerSquare in Austin, which in hindsight was a worthless spend. But
you didn't need South by Southwest tickets.
We didn't need South by Southwest tickets to
Here's the secret of South by Southwest. Don't buy the tickets. Because you don't want to sit in any of the events. What you want to do is go out and get the free tacos from the startups, go out for drinks at the free events and get to know the other entrepreneurs. All right, I get it. But that's all it took. Office space, you didn't need to buy, you didn't need to have a long-term commitment. You didn't need to hire teachers because you guys were doing the original teaching yourselves. There isn't much of the space. And meanwhile, you built it up before the sale to how much in sales? How much revenue?
It was pretty small at the time, about $1.5 million.
That's fantastic. And then you say at the time, why? Where did it go beyond that?
Oh my God. It went all the way to, I want to say 8 to 10. But Hack Reactor purchased MakerSquare right when we were around $1.5 million. And then right after the sale, we kept the MakerSquare brand and then expanded from there. And that brand, we got to about 8.5. And then we decided to call everything Hack Reactor. So to answer your question, it went from $1.5 million to right around 8, 10-ish.
Impressive. And to me, the thing that this is a business I should have frankly thought about. How many people want to be developers? I was in San Francisco. I could have created one in San Francisco. And the speed at which these businesses took off was phenomenal. And again, the pain when things went bad was also something that was that I want to talk about. It's kind of emotional. Let's get into what you were doing before, because you don't have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship before MakerSquare. You're a guy who started out as a project manager and you wanted to learn how to code. Why did you want to learn how to code?
So I had a team of developers who I was managing to build a product for teachers. I used to be a middle school, 5th grade. And after that, I got together with a guy who reached out to he basically created a company where we're building software for teachers.
You were a teacher. You got together with a guy who, what did you guys want to build?
Software for teachers. So the first thing that we built was a text messaging platform, kind of similar to Remind 101. They're just called Remind now. Also very successful edtech company. Great product, but it was similar to that back in the day.
Okay. And did you guys ever launch it?
We did launch it. We launched it, got some funding from a early co-founder in Zynga. And then I basically hustled and went to classrooms and taught teachers how to use it, and we got users and stuff. But then we couldn't really get it to a point of profitability. And around that same time, I was managing that team of developers, and I was like, hey, I know my background's in biomedical engineering, and I knew some code through like MATLAB and whatnot, but not web development. So then I was like, this is frustrating. I wish I could just write some of this code instead of relying on someone else. So I started teaching myself. So that's how I got into.
How did you teach yourself?
All the stuff online. This was like 6-ish years ago. So Codecademy was the most popular thing to learn programming online. And then just building little apps. I worked with a friend, and he and I would just build little things together. We both had day jobs, and in the evenings we'd get on Google Hangouts and pair program into the night.
So then why would you need a web development course? Why did you go to sign up for one?
Because that was the only thing that was there at the time. I was basically
but if you're learning it on your own, why do you need a course?
Because I thought I wasn't good enough to learn it on my own. I was like, someone's got to teach me the real deal. I feel like I'm just taking guesses here. I'm finding this thing online and I'm building stuff with it. Is the thing I'm building a piece of crap? Is it good? Is it code good? I just don't know. So I figured, okay, if there's a course for it, they might know better than me, and I can learn from that.
How was the course that you took?
Really bad.
What made it so bad?
So I knew exactly what made it so bad, to be honest, because I had just finished being a teacher. I'm
looking at your background. Not only were you a 5th and 8th grade math teacher, you also were a volunteer at Khan Academy, which does phenomenal education, right? Yeah. You worked on the Teacher Toolkit product. So then, tell me, based on that experience, what did you see that was bad?
It was very similar to like a traditional college experience. There's a lecture, and then there's a little bit of lab, and then you're done. There's no all the stuff that I kind of learned creates a good classroom atmosphere, which is everyone needs to know each other. Everyone needs to be, friends, if not at least know each other's names and be acquaintances. And if you create that community, then everyone's going to help each other. If as a student, if I'm learning from 2 other people next to me, that's way better than learning from just the instructor. It's the, one to many versus many to many. Many to many is just way more effective.
You're
learning.
the second person who I've talked to, second entrepreneur recently who said the same thing. The founder of Knowledge Matters said the same thing. He said that students want to learn from each other. I still don't understand it. Don't you want to be guided by the person who knows what they're doing, who tells you exactly what you need to do? Why would you want to, you're nodding. Why would you want to also get direction from other people in your program? I'm not saying that's not the right move. I just want to understand it.
Yeah. So I think both are needed. You need that expert person to set the foundation, to set the roadmap and be there when you are stuck with something really hard. At the same time, sometimes experts are blinded to what it's like being a beginner. And so you need other beginners next to you to relate to and to learn the incremental things from. And then you need the expert who can guide you towards making sure that those incremental gains you're making are all leading to a direction that's good.
Okay. All right. And so they didn't have that. Was there anything else that you didn't like about the program?
Yeah, they didn't have. So the teacher himself was a very traditional lecturer. There's a couple very easy to learn and effective techniques for writing a good lecture. When you're a lecturer, you want to get feedback from the people you're lecturing to. You want to know how are they learning this stuff, or am I just talking to a blank wall? And so there's stuff like think, pair, share, where when you ask a question, instead of just saying, hey, for simplicity purposes, what's 1 + 1? And then, a couple people raise their hand and you call on one person, they tell you, oh, it's 2. And you think that everybody knows that 1 + 1 is 2 because you think that way. But if you do something called think, pair, share, you say, hey, I'm going to ask everyone a question. What's 1 + 1? I want you to think about it for 20 seconds. Okay, now pair up with someone next to you and tell each other what you think 1 + 1 is. And then all of a sudden the whole room bursts out in interaction. And then you say, all right, everyone, let's come back together. What's 1 + 1? And then everyone's hands go up because they feel really comfortable sharing because they've already vetted whether or not they're right or wrong. They get to know the person next to them. And all of a sudden you've created this community where everyone feels comfortable interacting with each other. And
right.
What. Yeah. So that,
and you know what? And you know that and you've got the feedback that they know the answer. Or if you look around and you see multiple people don't get it and you realize that you're not explaining it right. Oh, that's really smart. You know what? So I always thought asking questions was the answer because you're basically introducing the Socratic method that's worked as long as, learning, I guess, ever since Socrates, where you're not telling people, but you're asking them a question and drawing the answer out of them. You're taking this a step beyond and saying, I want them to all tell someone else, one other person, to make sure that they're all getting that response in. Mm-hmm. I see why you would sit in that class and you would get frustrated when you know all this stuff, when you know how good teaching could be. It sucks to see it suck.
Exactly.
All right. So then you said, I'm going to create my own class. Going from not knowing how to do this and seeing a problem to creating your own school, your own business seems like a pretty big leap. How did you take that leap? What made you take that leap?
I think it was, so I've always been a entrepreneurial type of guy. So it didn't really seem like a big leap or a big risk. I remember even all the way from second grade when I literally first came to America, I found a buddy on the school bus and we'd sell hand-drawn Nike swooshes and stick them on people's shoes for $0.25.
Wait, so you would draw it on a piece of paper or some...
Yeah, literally lined notebook paper.
And then you would stick it on their shoe and charge them for that to make their shoes into Nikes. Exactly. Got it.
They loved it. I mean, we sported those, walked around the school and everyone's like, look at those guys.
Okay.
But anyway, so I've now since learned that this wasn't the first business venture that I had kind of gotten myself into. It was probably the 10th. It was the 10th one was the biggest one. So it didn't feel risky or it didn't feel like a big deal. We just followed the steps of what we knew was the right thing to do next, right? We were like, hey, we should make a school. Well, how are we going to tell people about the school? Let's make a website. Okay, well, how are we going to let people know the website exists? Oh, let's find out where everyone's talking about coding schools and tell them hey, we have a coding school in Austin, Texas now. And the one thing, you just kind of problem solve the next thing in front of you. And when you look back, you're like, whoa, now there's a school on Congress Avenue in Austin, Texas. How did that happen?
So you build up the website. I heard you spent all night. You wanted to make sure to get it right. You got the website up and running. And then where did you go to tell people about the school in Austin?
The first place was Quora. This is way back in the day. Mm-hmm. Like the only place where people were talking about coding schools was on Quora. And there was this one post that was basically like, hey, where are all the coding schools in the US? And there was like 3 listed on there. And we were like, wait, anyone can edit this post? Okay, I'm going to edit it and put hours on there. And all of a sudden people were finding us. And so that was the first place. And then after that was like this on the ground hustle in Austin, Texas, where we'd go to every single meetup, and kind of tell everyone what we were up to. And then, we would ask some of the more well-known engineers, in Austin to, see if they wanted a mentor for our students once we had a class. And then that got them really excited about just what we were doing, because they're like, yeah, this mentoring sounds fun. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people knew about what we were doing. And when a prospective student would ask anyone in the tech industry, they would run into someone who was like, oh yeah, I know those guys. And that social validation from an engineer was huge.
And to mentor, all they had to do was what?
Once a week, meet with a student for an hour.
With one student for an hour?
Yeah.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. One of the things that you guys did, I'm looking at an early version of your site right now, and others did too, is the apply.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't click here to pay. Why did you do the application process?
Okay. It kind of just made sense to, one, because it's a school, and I don't know who would fork over, 5 figures worth of money from a click here to buy this thing. It's like buying a car online. Like people do it nowadays, but because they see the cars around them, they can go to a showroom and check it out, and then they'll buy it online. But anyway, that high ticket item, you don't expect people to just hit the buy button online. And so apply was a way for them to interact with us, and see if they even wanted to do the program. So it was a two-way street. Like
it was for you to see if they were the right fit, but also for you to sell them, because you know that a landing page is not going to sell them on something so
Exactly.
involved. How much were you charging?
At the time, $8,000.
$8,000. That's a pretty high thing to ask. How'd you get comfortable asking for $8,000? I think a lot of schools would have said, you know what, I'm just starting out. What do I even know? Let's just ask for a few $100s and then I'll ramp up to the right price. You guys started out high. Why? How did you know?
So we had a little bit of, we got a little bit of help because we knew what other people were charging. We weren't the world's first coding school. We were the world's like 3rd or 4th or something like that coding school. And so we could see what other people were doing and finding success with. And so we kind of just modeled that. And we wanted to be a high priced thing. Because a couple things. One, we knew that eventually, we're going to eat up the margin and hire more people. And in order to make a good product, like it's going to take some money. And 2, it was still right around the price range of what other coding schools were offering. So we kind of had that cheat code.
The one that got a lot of attention was, I think they were called Code Academy versus the online program, which was Code Academy. Yeah. They then became Starter League. They were acquired by Full Stack Academy. Yep. They're the ones. Were they the one that got your attention at first too? Was there someone else that you were especially inspired by?
Starter League, Code Academy, we're big fans. Mike and Neil, the guys that started it, one of our co-founders actually went through Code Academy in one of their first few cohorts.
And so you go through it and you say, I can do this. It just takes a room and really knowledgeable teachers, and you've got this. And it's not the kind of thing that could scale overnight to the whole country. So we could do it in Austin. Fair to say?
Almost fair to say. The thing that Code Academy wasn't doing was making it like an immersive program. Code Academy was still a part-time program at the time.
I see.
And so, we were like, wait, if we're going to do this, you should go all in. That's the best way to learn it. And so for us, it was like, okay, we can do this because we're seeing these guys do it. And also we have this unique thing that we feel passionate about, which is go all in and make the education good. And so we were like, no one else is doing that. Like we should put that product in the marketplace.
All right. I got to tell you about baby bathwater now. Because
Yeah,
I would like you
I'm
to come.
really
I would
curious.
like Anthony to come. Here's the deal. You know how a lot of conferences you go to are full of stuff that you can basically get online. Like you could listen to a speaker talk online, and often if you've been to another conference, you probably heard that same speaker in the room. It's kind of awkward to not show up for those long talks. You feel like you have to because otherwise you paid the money. What's the point? Or if you paid and you're over there and you're not going to the session, what else are you going to do? Now you have to go do work to figure out this new city to say where you're going to go and who you're going to go with. It becomes this like forced activity. In some cases, it's helpful. In many cases, it's not. So these guys at Baby Bathwater said, let's look at all the things we don't like about conferences. Well, there's big egos for some of the people who come in there. The speaker dinners are favoring the speakers, and that's really where the conference is, but everyone else is left out of it. You have this whole VIP bullshit. You have selling from the stage if you pick the wrong conference, stale hotel rooms that don't feel inspiring, and bad food that you have to go through because you want to get together with other people. They said, you know, what if we do something completely different? What if we just go and pick our ideal situation? Our ideal situation is, as entrepreneurs, we want to get to know other entrepreneurs. We want to talk with them and do the fun stuff. Like every time I go to a conference, I was just talking to my team. Say, here's our plan. When we go to conferences, I don't even want to be in the rooms most of the time. I want us to set up all this stuff. They said, how about if we set it all up for people? And so they did. They have set something up where they take care of everything. They take care of the room. They take care of the food. They take care of the activities so that you've got stuff to do with people who are coming to the conference. And more important than all of that, they curate the people. Just like a conference would ordinarily curate the speakers, they curate the guest list, keep it small so that it's the right group of people. So all that stuff, the selling from the stage, the speaker dinner, etc., they call that the bathwater. Most people don't go to conferences because there's that stuff and they say, I don't want to deal with all that. I say that's the bathwater. Why throw out the baby with the bathwater? That's partially it. The other part is that, frankly, they're a little quirky and they just love the idea of seeing people who send checks and make a check out to Baby Bathwater.
I love it.
They're doing this at Powder Mountain to make sure that there's the right set of activities. I'm not even a skier. I'm going there. I'm actually reaching out to past interviewees and saying to them, let's get together at this event. This is where I want to go. So for me, I'm going to the event because I want to talk through my business with other entrepreneurs who built good businesses like you. Imagine if you and I got together and just sat for a couple of hours and talk through, here's what I'm going through. You're in education space. What could I do? Give like feedback from each other. You might say, hey, I'm trying to raise my profile here. I'm taking over this new company. What could I do? We'd spend maybe an hour on that. Imagine if it was a weekend with not just me, but other phenomenal entrepreneurs. That's the idea behind Baby Bathwater. I've got a special URL if you want to go check it out. Come through this URL. You will be part of... Actually, I don't even know that it matters that you're coming through me. It's such a small group of people. We're all going to be hanging out together. We're all going to be in each other's faces. Oh, I see. It looks like they're giving you a discount if you're approved. Motherfucker. This is really low. For the event, it's $1,250, all inclusive at Powder Mountain. I didn't see the price. I didn't realize they were giving us a low price. I don't think they should do this. Oh wait, hang on. Time out. It's not that the event costs $1,250. It's $1,250 off the regular price of the event if people go to babybathwater.com/Mixergy. Good. I thought this was way too cheap. There's something wrong with an event that's too cheap. No. Great event. They put you up, they get you food, I'm going to make sure that you get good scotch and good experience. And if you are approved and you use the URL babybathwater.com/Mixergy, it's going to be $1,250 off. That's what the real price is. All right, go check them out. babybathwater.com/Mixergy. Apply if you're interested by going to babybathwater.com/Mixergy, and you're going to see some people who've gone to the conference. I'd urge you to just shoot them a message and say, hey, I heard that you went to this conference. What do you think of it? I have found, having asked that people will rave about the conference. Remember Chris Stoikos, the guy from Dollar Beard Club? You didn't see this. I interviewed this guy. I see in my notes that he's making over $1 million within a few months selling beard oil. I don't believe him. I say, show me your screen. He's at the airport. He starts doing screen share. He shows me his revenue. I go, holy crap, this is amazing. He was flying back, I think, that night from Baby Bathwater while I was doing the interview. He was on the air, like going into the airplane. That's the kind of entrepreneur that you get. All right. If you're interested, I would love for you to show up at this conference. Be there with me. We're going to hang out, go to this URL, babybathwater.com/Mixergy. This is the event I'm really looking forward to going this year. All right. My sense is that like I would like to get together with you, but I'm looking at you and I'm sensing that maybe this whole experience you might be too uptight for it. Like a hangout with Andrew over a weekend. We drink, we talk. You don't have to drink, but you know, what does that feel like for you? Does it feel like you? Is it the kind of thing that you would do?
Yeah, this is the exact kind of thing I would do. I mean, Tony, I do that all the time, actually.
Do you guys kick back? Do you kick back?
Yeah.
You do. What do you do when you kick back? Play
squash. We play racquetball. We just walk around town. We grab some whiskey and hang out at his house and in the kitchen.
In the kitchen. So you guys just sit in the kitchen. Oh, he brought me a good whiskey. He's a good whiskey drinker. He's got good taste.
He's really, yeah, he is.
So you just like hang out in his kitchen and you dream and you say, well, what if we did this? How about if we grow the company that way? That's the thing?
Yeah.
What's an example of a topic that you guys talked about in person over a drink?
A lot of times it's about how to handle conversations with people. Like what to do about, okay, here's an example.
Yeah.
Actually just a couple nights ago, or last night, it was me, Tony, and, another one of our friends, Nick Akey, who used to work at Hack Reactor, then went through the program, graduated. Now he's a software engineer making a bunch of money. But he just started his first day on the job this Monday. And he comes back and he's like, all right, guys, I got a story for you. And we're like, tell us, how'd your first day go? And he was like, well, so I log on and he works remotely. So he gets on, meets everybody, has this one-on-one with like the director of ops who's kind of like onboarding him. It's a small company. They don't have like an HR, department or anything like that. And he is, video chatting with a guy and, they get to the sexual harassment piece of the onboarding and the training. And he hears another guy in the room, that like laughs. And he's like, well, I wonder why he's laughing at this portion of the training. And then he gets a message, saying, hey, this person's ass is awesome, by the way. And he was like, what? We're literally talking about like sexual harassment.
Right.
And you are literally doing the thing you're not supposed to do on my first day at the job during my onboarding. And he was just dumbfounded. So he was telling us about it. And he was like, what should I do? And so the three of us, we were like, okay, first of all, this place is crazy. Like, this is nuts that this is your onboarding experience. And he was like, do I tell the guy that sent me that chat, like, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that. Do I tell the ops person that was onboarding me that this guy said this to me and like that's not cool? Do I tell my manager? Like, what do I do about this situation? And so Tony and I were just riffing on, I'm like, okay, what if we do this? What if you do that? And then, ultimately we just played out a bunch of different scenarios.
So what's the answer to that? I know what my answer is, how I would react to it. What's yours?
All right, here's the only answer. I'm saying your answer is bad, without even hearing it.
It's almost definitely bad, but this is what I would do. What's yours?
So here's the answer. You talk to your manager and say, hey man, this is what happened during the onboarding yesterday. To me, that's unacceptable. And I'm concerned about it because, I just joined this company. I feel a sense of responsibility to make sure that we as a unit, we as a company now don't tolerate this kind of thing because we're not going to be attracting the right type of people. I can tell you of my 10, let's say I had 10 friends who were in the same situation that I was on the first day of onboarding and they got this message, 5 of them would leave. And so now we're just like cutting away,
good people.
Good people.
Yeah.
And we can't have that. And that got them on the exact same page of like, okay, we do have to do something about this. And this guy's on my team about it. He's not accusing me of something or like saying, words like you or me. He's saying words like we and our. He's participating in the solution.
Right. It's not, it offends me. It's going to hurt us as a company. We're all together, even though I'm new here. Oh, that is so good.
So anyway,
Mine is always, I accept whatever anyone says. Like if you sat down with me and you said, listen, I just can't stand interviewers. I'd be like, tell me why.
Yeah.
I just want to know, I want to be as open to everyone's crazy opinions as possible. And that's why I'm a great interviewer, but also probably would not be good in a situation like that. I like for people to tell me their most outrageous thoughts, the most inappropriate thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, makes me a good interviewer, makes me great at dinner, but may not make me the best new hire for this company. All right. So you now are going out on Quora. You're talking at meetups. You're bringing in these mentors. People come in. How many students did you get your first round?
28.
28. And where did you do this? Where'd you get office space to do it?
Right on Congress Avenue. Have you been in Austin?
Yeah. That's where Regis has an office. When I needed to get away from South by Southwest, I went upstairs to Regis and hung out in their office. That's
nice.
Pretty central, right?
Yeah. We were on 6th and Congress. It's like a, old historic building. It was the cheapest thing we could find.
Impressive. And you just needed it. How much did it cost? This is the egghead business person in me. I'm curious.
What did it cost? I think it was like 14 grand a month or something like that.
14 grand a month?
Uh-huh.
Man,
was that
that's
a lot
more,
or little?
That's a lot more than I expected. All right.
Oh.
I guess I always thought that you guys had a deal on this. So you basically are bringing about $250,000. You only have to pay 14 grand. Yeah, right. $224,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's 14 grand a month, let's say. So 30,000, maybe 90 total in office space.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And now it's time for you to teach. You know how to teach. Not you, actually. I looked at the website. It's the three others who are teaching, right? You weren't one of the teachers?
Two others. I was not one of the teachers. I was one of the ones that was, I was the test subject for our teachers when they were building new curriculum. I would listen to it and be like, you can't do that. We got to build an exercise for this. Like, you can't just talk at me about how you should do this. So I was the one that was like, okay, wait, no, we need to create exercises for this. We need them to do exercises, then lecture, and then exercises again. More like shaping like what I know to be effective, regardless of what you're teaching. So it's kind of like the guinea pig for them. But we actually hired instructors.
Yeah, it looks like Mike Ornelas was one of the earlier developer instructors.
Yeah.
One of your co-founders,
Shazan, yep.
Was one of the instructors.
Gilbert, Matt Buck, Gilbert Garza.
Osei Bonzu,
yep.
So a lot of instructors, actually, as I go through this. How much did you have to pay in instructors?
It changed over time. At the beginning, a little, because we also offered equity. And then later on, more market rate, because we stopped offering in hindsight, it was a very generous equity package. But anywhere from like 60K to 120K a year ish.
So you were already committing to more than just the 10 weeks. You were paying them annually.
Oh, yeah.
Because you knew you'd do this multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Look at you. Josh Bear, you got as an instructor, as an advisor?
Yeah.
From Capital Factory. He's the investor, the entrepreneur. That. He's fantastic. The guy from Return Path.
Yes.
So you had a lot of people all ready to go and teach. Did you make a profit that first round?
Honestly, I don't know. We were too busy doing the stuff.
And you just knew, look, we have enough students here. We know the revenue's strong. This is successful. We don't have to figure out whether we made enough money today or not. It's profitable. If we continue, it's definitely going to grow and be profitable.
Yeah. And I now know that we were basically operating from a cash flow perspective, not an accrual basis. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, okay, bank account's good and it's going up. Let's not focus on the money. Let's focus on the teaching.
The other thing that stands out to me when I look at the early website is you hired people to also be, what was the title for it? To basically be career developers, to make sure that the people who graduated ended up with jobs. Am I right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was their job? What did they have to do to help ensure that your people got jobs?
At the very beginning, they were both getting companies to be like doing sales to companies to be like, hey, we've got developers for you. And also working with the candidates to be like, let me look at your resume. Let me make sure you're applying to jobs. Let me look at your cover letter. Let me do a mock interview with you to make sure you don't sound like weirdo or a loser and no one wants to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me be the one that gives you the feedback no one else is going to give you about how, hey, you need to talk to me when you're interviewing, or you can't say so much, or you can't get stuck on this one thing. You really got to be brief in the first conversation. All that type of feedback, frankly, that like, I don't know why colleges don't do it, but they should, because that's what actually gets you the job.
Yeah, no, they don't. And did you guys also charge the businesses?
We did not at the beginning. We did later, and found this really, in hindsight, now it makes sense, but this weird phenomenon at the time, which is once we started charging, they started hiring more.
Really?
Yeah, because now all of a sudden we weren't giving away a free product. We were placing value on our product.
And you could maybe make more money from placing people than you would from tuition, couldn't you?
Yeah, technically you could. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what is it? It's $30,000 is what a headhunter would get for placing a good developer. Maybe not a new developer. That might be 20.
Yeah, somewhere around like it's usually this industry standard is like 10 to 20% of the first year salary.
That's phenomenal. All right, now you've got something that actually starts to make sense. How do you grow it? What's the next step?
We did a bunch of different things. We didn't really think about growth until we had kind of built the existing system to operate without us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, okay, now let's look at the finances. Now let's figure out how much money we're making.
So it's
now
all about how do we get enough teachers on so that we don't have to guide the curriculum and teach at all ourselves? How do we get someone to place our students? What was the hardest job for you guys to replace?
Ownership of the whole experience.
The student experience. Someone to say, a student comes in, applies. What do they see right away? At first it was a type form. Do we keep a type form? What questions do we ask? How do we tell them yes or no? How do we get them in a meeting? How do we then like make sure that they're shepherded through the process and get a job? One person.
Yeah,
what's that title for that?
Now it's campus lead.
Campus leader?
Campus lead.
Campus lead. Okay.
Yep. And at the time we had no idea. We were like, maybe it's a product manager. Maybe it's class lead. Maybe it's like a student experience manager. But it was really just someone who could take full ownership of the container. And that was the hardest because you get all sorts of stuff thrown your way. Like student issues that students have with the program, issues that students have with each other, issues that teachers have with students or teachers have with each other, all sorts of dynamics, because this is a people business. This isn't a like SaaS product. So there's so many human dynamics at play.
What do you hire for that? What are you looking for when you're hiring someone to take the whole thing over?
Empathy. Yeah. Someone who can put themselves in someone else's shoes and then shepherd a conversation to a positive conclusion. It's all about conversations that end
Looking
well.
at a blog post from someone who went through this process, he says that he was contacted to do a technical interview first, and then there was it a psycho check? Make sure that you're a normal human being who doesn't wear full length leather trench coat with a fedora is how he put it. This is a blog post by Mike Dow.
That name doesn't sound familiar.
I don't know if he ended up working with you guys. I'm just kind of breezing through research as we're talking here. So you did a technical interview with people. What are you looking for in a technical interview from someone who says, I don't know how to program. I want to learn.
So we did not start from zero, right? Like if someone's interested in coding, we didn't say, hey, come to our program. We said, here's a bunch of resources for you to learn on your own. We need to make sure that you can learn on your own and that you actually like this stuff. Like come to us once you know I like this stuff and I want to accelerate my path. I don't just want a pathway to follow. I can already do this myself. It was just going to take me a year or two, and I'm already motivated to do it myself. It's going to take me a year or two, but I'm coming here because I want it to take me 3 months, not a year or two.
Okay.
So you have to do a technical interview to make sure that they've done the work themselves to be able to know that they're going to like this stuff and that they can teach themselves.
All right. I've got an early application that you guys have on Typeform. And
you're digging up everything.
Yeah. As we talk, if you tell me something, I want to go see it for myself to get a sense of it. So if there's an application, I want to go and see it. It's interesting that on your application, of course, you ask for, people's like LinkedIn profile, their phone number, etc. The thing that stood out was you also ask for a link to their teamtreehouse.com URL to see their work there, or their codeschool.com or Codecademy. You wanted to see the work that they've done on online programs to get a sense of whether they started something for real and whether they'd be a good fit. Mm-hmm. You know what else stands out for me on this?
What's that?
The price. I'm looking at Typeform from 2014. And by then you'd already started to increase your price into the 1,300, like roughly 14 to 1,500, right?
Yeah.
How'd you know to increase the price? What was it that signaled to you that it's time that you can go higher?
My co-founders will tell a version of the story, but essentially the version of the story they'll tell you is Harsh one time decided to pull up the site's HTML and change the price and not tell anybody. And we got the same amount of students coming in and the same amount of people interested, except we were making more money. And you know, most of that is true.
What part is not?
All of that is true.
It is. All right.
All of that is true. I kind of just wanted to see like the price sensitivity. I didn't know. We didn't know if 8,000 was right or not. And we were spending enough money where we were eating up enough margin where I was like, okay, I can see a world where in 6 months or a year, we're going to be spending more per student than the tuition we're bringing in. So let me try to solve this problem now.
Oh, what were the big expenses?
Staff is the biggest expense.
And the staff was there to teach. What else?
So you have like admissions, you have finance, you have the technical teaching staff, you have a non-technical like classroom leader, you have the career coaches, and you have the employer partnerships folks. And, you know, over time, I was just seeing that different people were asking for like, hey, I think we should have a person doing this. I think we should have a person doing that. And I was like, we're eating into our margin. That's not sustainable. And I agree with you. We do need to have a person doing that. So we're going to have to raise the price. And there was all these discussions about like, what should we raise the price to? And I was just like, fuck it, man. I'm going to do it and see what happens.
Okay. And you increased it by about 50% and boom, sales didn't go down. Where are people getting this much money? If someone doesn't have like a top job, how can they afford another $1,500, $15,000?
All of it was coming from cash at the beginning. Like folks had stuff saved up or their friends or family. Sometimes they would, the really scrappy ones would, take out 0 interest credit cards because they had good credit, just didn't have cash, and they would just pay the whole thing with a credit card and they didn't have to pay it back for a year. It was awesome. Really smart. But then over time, there was another ecosystem that developed of lending partners that were going to fund students to go through coding schools. And now that ecosystem is thriving in and of itself. There's like 3 or 4 different competitors that are all hoping to lend to students going specifically to coding schools.
Makes sense because you're helping them get jobs. The market is good. If you're proven to create employable developers, there is money that they could pay back. All right. There's one other thing that stands out I want to talk about in a moment. And I also want to talk about this rumor that I heard that you substantiated basically with the pre-interviewer with our producer. First, I've got to tell everyone about this post, this Medium post. Where is that Medium post? I have so many tabs open. I cannot talk to people without having tabs open. Where is it? Oh, here it is. How do I miss this? It's a Medium post by a guy named Thuso Mbedzi. He's a UX developer, top-rated UX developer. Here's the headline from this, from September 28th. Fuck. I failed TopTal's test for UX UI designers. Here's why. And this guy put in, I probably shouldn't curse in your interview, but I got to be real with what I'm reading here. This guy wrote a long post about what his experience was like getting into TopTal, how tough it was, how much effort he put into it, how excited he was to be moving along in their process. And then he took his eye off the ball because he had clients. He went to work with the clients. And then at the completion of this hiring process, he wasn't as available and he lost the opportunity and he's kicking himself and he's basically writing this post to tell the world about how much he wanted to work for Upwork. Did I say Upwork for TopTal? He did not want to work for Upwork. He wanted to work for TopTal. He is now still working for Upwork. I can see from his bio. He wanted to be on this network because he knew the work was good. The clients were good. This is the kind of thing you guys can see if you go look online from developers, from designers. They want to be associated with TopTal because they know that TopTal gets them the right clients. They get the right environment. They want to work there. And so if you're looking for a developer, if you're looking for a designer, do you want someone who's the best of the best, the person who's hungry to work, who will love going through this process and kick themselves for not doing well? Or do you want someone who's cheap? Frankly, sometimes you do. You want the person who's cheap. But when you want the best of the best, the person who can outthink you, who won't just do what you tell them to do, but will understand the problem and come up with a better way of doing it. Now you're talking TopTal. If that's what you're looking for, I urge you to go check out this URL. TopTal was started by two Mixergy fans. One of them, Tasso, came to a Mixergy event back when I was doing it at South by Southwest. He was a listener. He paid for a ticket. He came out. And so they're giving Mixergy listeners something they're not giving anyone else. And that is 80 hours of TopTal developer credit when you pay for your first 80 hours. And that's in addition to a no risk trial period of up to 2 weeks. So, do you know TopTal? I guess do you guys place people in TopTal?
We don't. I do know them. They have a very good reputation. We haven't worked with them. We haven't found a way to. If we do, we might reach out, but we've heard really good things. Yeah,
I guess some of your developers maybe could end up working with them. The idea is with TopTal, some businesses need to hire someone quickly. Sometimes they need to hire someone part-time. Maybe it's full-time. Maybe they need to hire a whole team of developers all at once. They go to TopTal. TopTal has them in their network, ready to go right away. I'm telling you guys, do your research and you're going to love TopTal. TOPTAL.com/Mixergy. All right. You know what? I'm surprised by how many people who seem to be in competitive businesses to TopTal end up saying, no, go ahead. They're a whole other world from us. Go read the ad. Cause I always check. I checked with you. Who knew? Maybe you're investing in a competitor to TopTal. Maybe you don't like baby or bathwater.
No, I like TopTal, and I now like baby with the bathwater.
Baby bathwater, dude. Babybathwater.com, the weirdest, wackiest name. Imagine now telling your friends, imagine telling your team, I'm not going to be around this weekend. I'm going to go to Baby Bathwater.
Yeah, we're telling our accounts payable, please send this check to Baby Bathwater.
Right. But
sounds great. I want to do it just for that.
Yeah. Here's the second thing that I noticed in here. June 2013, is it? No, June 2014, you guys were going to go into San Francisco. $14,880 gets you into San Francisco. You are now starting to encroach on Hack Reactor's territory, right?
Yep.
How did you decide that you're going to leave Austin and go straight into the heart of Silicon Valley?
So anyone listening from Austin might be disappointed to hear this. But I believed it to be true, 3 years ago now? And I think it still might be true. The reason we went to San Francisco is because we felt like we were one of the best coding schools in the nation, but nobody was covering us because all the schools that were getting coverage were in San Francisco or New York. Mm-hmm. And we found that we were kind of just having to fight for a voice in the national conversation about coding schools, even though our outcomes were super legit, way better than some of the other ones out there. And our teaching quality was really good. Our students loved the program. So we were like, hey, we got to be in San Francisco. If we ever want to be a big player in this space, which we have dreams of, we got to be in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Austin wasn't going to cut it. So that's what motivated us to be in San Francisco.
You know, I get that. I think you could have done a lot more without being in San Francisco, that you weren't reaching out to me, for example, and saying, hey, Andrew, mm-hmm. I'm running this coding school. You need to find out about it. I think that could have helped. But also I remember talking to Paul Graham and saying, why'd you leave Boston and go to San Francisco? And he said, basically, someone's got to do it. And if you're not the San Francisco person and someone else is, they're going to get all the credibility. This is the place. So You come into San Francisco. Was it hard to get students in San Francisco?
It was. At the beginning, it was hard to get students. We didn't have the same uptick as we did in Austin. I think our class sizes were like 10-ish. So we were running San Francisco at a deficit. for a little bit. Because we were competing with places like Hack Reactor and App Academy, and who else was there at the time? Hackbright, a couple other players that were already established there. But we knew that was something we wanted to do and invest in, because we wanted to be a part of the national conversation. Ultimately, I think it got us to the White House. When the White House
being in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess this is a guess. And maybe I'm just connecting the dots because I'm convincing myself that it was a good idea in hindsight. But the White House reached out to us after we launched in San Francisco, and they also reached out to other coding schools that they had heard of that were doing a good job. And I don't think they would have heard about us much if we were just an Austin-based school. But anyway, they had their short list of like, hey, we're going to invite Hack Reactor, MakerSquare, App Academy, Hackbright Academy, all those were San Francisco schools, and Flatiron School from New York. And I think that's what got us that.
And that's how Hack Reactor and MakerSquare connected. The two founders were there.
Yeah. That's how we got to know them well.
Was it Tony who was there?
Yeah, Tony and Sean were there.
Okay. And was there any resentment? Like, dude, you just stepped into our territory. What the hell are you doing? We're going to crush you. We feel something. Was there any of that?
No, there wasn't. Partly because Doug is the one that was talking that you had on the show earlier, I think a couple of years ago. When we had first started MakerSquare, Doug reached out and submitted an application to MakerSquare as a student. We were like, haha, funny. And then we submitted an application back into Hack Reactor. And that got us, that was a little joke. And we ended up getting on some Google Hangouts calls, and we were in touch with them from the very beginning. You always were. We always were. Well, we were in touch with Doug. We were always in touch with Doug.
Because Doug is a friendly person.
Doug is the nicest human being you will ever meet in your entire life.
Plus, Doug has a need for people, like internally, the way that I do. I had to tell my assistant, look, you're planning conferences for me. I want to go to dinner with people there. If you ask me who, I'm going to want everybody. Yeah. And what about the guy who opens the door? Why aren't we talking to him, right? And Doug is like that too. He's got that same need as me, where Tony, I think, is a little more disciplined in his love for people.
Yep. So Doug was just being super nice, and we were just going back and forth. We were sharing what we were up to in Austin, like what was working, what wasn't working. Doug was sharing what they were up to in San Francisco.
You're kind of sharing enough that it's not risky for you, and you're connecting with them, but not so much that it's dangerous for you, right?
No.
You were being fully open?
Fully open.
Why?
About everything. A little bit of being naive, and a little bit of like recognizing that they cared about the same thing we did, which was student outcomes, which means like, hey, their heart's in the right place. They're just like us. So why the fuck not? Let's share and we'll both get better.
Here's what I don't know Tony nearly as well as you do, but here's my sense of him. He is a really nice laid back guy who's a freaking killer on the inside. I feel the energy from him. I don't know how you replaced him, but I feel the energy from him that he would have done well in a Game of Thrones type environment in another world, and no one would have known that he was killing them.
Yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah.
So
Tony's great.
Do you feel in retrospect that maybe he was pumping you for data or something?
No, I don't think so at all.
I bet he has a CRM somewhere with everything that you said. I bet you.
That would be awesome.
And your favorite drink, just in case.
Yeah, no? Yes, he would have that. He would have the favorite drink first. But anyway, that's so we just like.
So you guys kept talking. You kept in touch. Yeah. You finally met with Sean and Tony in the White House. The White House brought you guys in to talk about how veterans can get jobs in the new economy. The new economy involves development. They wanted to pick your brains and learn from you. You got the honor of going over there and the credibility that comes from it. You get together. Does that then lead to a sale?
Pretty much.
It does. Why would you sell? You're growing. Why sell? We
didn't have any intention of, we didn't know anyone would want to buy a school, to be honest, when we first started the thing. We did, our only goal when we first started the thing was let's make a good school. And we did. We kind of achieved that goal. And then we had to figure out what we cared about once we achieved that goal of creating a good school and figuring out how we were going to grow it. And so, we had no intention of selling to anybody, but then we had a couple other, players, who ended up buying, Dev Bootcamp and the Iron Yard, come out to us and say like, hey, we want to do a partnership. And that usually means we're interested in buying you, which I now learned. And so, we had them and they were like, hey, we want to buy you. And we're like, what? That's weird. Why do you want to buy a school? Like what this is. And then we were like, wait a minute, I guess we did build a business that people want to buy. And we were like, we wouldn't really feel proud to sell to the people that reached out to us.
Why? What was it about them?
DeVry University and University of Phoenix. They had a very bad reputation in the for-profit industry. And we were like, this isn't the first business that we're going to start, right? Or this isn't the last. Yeah, this isn't the last business that we're going to start. If we are going to sell MakerSquare, we want to sell it to people that we feel good about being who we would place a bet on in winning in the industry in the long term. And I was like, that's not University of Phoenix. That's not DeVry. But once they were giving us offers, we were like, who would we want to sell to? And we were like, Hack Reactor. Those are the guys that we think are going to do well long term. And we get along with them. We have a shared value system of like, we want students to get jobs. That's like, we obsessively care about that. And we were like, that feels way better. So if they can give us the same thing, let's go with them rather than these other guys.
How did they get the cash to buy you guys out? Did they have outside funding?
They didn't have outside funding, and they didn't have all the cash that the other guys were giving us.
Mm-hmm.
But we felt like not taking all of the cash and re-upping a little bit in the Hack Reactor felt good because we were like, we're not little equity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not done with this coding school industry.
How much did you sell it for?
I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you that.
Ballpark it. We're talking about 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10.
Okay. And part cash, part equity in the business.
Yep.
Do you remember the day when the money went into your bank account?
I do. We Tony and I walked over to Chase Bank together and did a little transfer.
Oh, really? In the bank?
Yeah, at Chase. It was almost an afterthought. I'm an idiot, right? We were like, because we were all still so interested in growing the business. Like that's what we cared about, and we were like, okay, like in order for us to grow this thing together, God damn it, we have to do all this paperwork and legal stuff and money transfer and all that stuff. But let's focus on like how are we, like what are you guys doing with the students over there? Well, here's what we're doing, and so we're just focused on all this other stuff and obviously the money was important. But at one point we were in San Francisco and we were like, wait a minute, we should just like, let's just walk over to Chase and do the transfer now. And we're like, oh yeah, let's do that.
And you became a millionaire in cash that day.
No,
you didn't, because you had 3 other co-founders.
Exactly. And we had a couple advisors we gave equity to, and we were generous with our initial, staff, all sorts of reasons.
Right. You said you gave them equity.
Yeah, exactly. So no, not millionaires, but enough where, we were at least keeping up with all of our friends who were doing banking and finance jobs for the last several years while we were
keeping up or beating them.
Beating them at that point.
Good. Cause you know what? Here's the thing. It's so painful as an entrepreneur. You could work your ass off. You take all these risks. You go to sleep at night knowing that you could lose it all, including your credits, which would make it hard to start another company. Meanwhile, we all have friends who are in finance who don't have any of those risks. Yeah, they're risking stuff, but it's basically other people's money and the next step in their career, who often make tons of cash. They then get all kinds of stuff. If it's not the right cars, and it often is that, it's also these homes that they're buying. It's also this like random real estate thing.
Yeah, and you go hang out with them and you're like, damn. This is like, what the hell am I doing?
Wait, what kind of universe are we living in where they are more valuable to the economy than we are? And we're not talking about like the heads of these banks. We're talking about some dude who does practically nothing, but because he's in the finance industry.
PowerPoints to sell companies makes, 6 figures.
Yeah, I remember the founder of Living Social told me about how he was going home on a Segway because he had to like analyze every minute of his day. He's that kind of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you need to do as an entrepreneur. Maximize time, maximize money, maximize like every little bit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, some of these guys, poof, right out of school. So here's the thing. I'm now living in San Francisco. I don't usually like rumors, but now that I'm doing interviews, I need them to understand what's going on in the space. The rumor that I heard was that this whole space went from rising and going from heights to heights, as they say in the UK, to a crash where some of the schools closed, including, I forget the name, the one that sold for a pretty good amount of money closed.
Dev Boot Camp.
What is it?
Dev Boot Camp.
Dev Boot Camp closed, after selling. And others struggled. You guys had to do cutbacks. What happened? Tell me about the cutback and what it was like for you. And then tell me broader in the industry. Why did this happen?
Yeah. So I think I got to be honest. I don't know exactly what happened. If I did, we would just never do that thing. It's all guesses. It's a lot of like looking at some data sets and inferring and whatnot. So I don't know exactly what happened. I can't say here's what happened here, but here's my guesses. Mm-hmm. At least for some of the other players. So we knew how hard it is to run a good school, which is good outcomes, while running it at a profit, which means you get to keep going. Sometimes profits get a bad, if you're making money, sometimes people feel that's a bad thing in education when really it means, hey, this institution is going to stay on for a long time if they're profitable. So anyway, we knew how hard it was to be profitable and have good outcomes. And yet some of these other places were taking on tens of millions in funding. And we're like, what the hell are you using that on? Like if you gave us 10 million, we would probably park it in the bank and keep doing our thing. We might start a couple growth initiatives, but they were just burning through cash, and yet their outcomes were not getting better, and they were not creating a profitable business. And I think that came back to bite them when prospective students got smart about what school to go to. They got smart about choosing the school that's going to be the best for their career, which means good outcomes. And once that student stream stopped for other schools, they couldn't really bring it back up because it takes time to prove that you have good outcomes. And so I think that's a little, and they just didn't know how to operate a school, on a unit basis to be profitable. I think they had too much money to use and didn't really focus on that.
Was it also that it was overbuilt? We went from having no in-person schools that were really connected to this industry to suddenly having lots because it felt like anyone could create it?
Yeah, that's I don't know if that's, probably. I don't know for sure, but I think so.
You had to let people go. How many out of how many?
Yeah, we had to let a lot of people go. I think like 30 or 40-ish.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough. And I mean, I don't want to, it was obviously tougher for the folks that we had to let go than us. And it was really tough for us, and therefore it was like insanely tough for the people we had to let go. But you got to do it. You owe it to the students and the staff to make sure that your school is going to stay around for a long time. So you can't really shy away from that. You got to do the hard stuff, and you got to do it as best as you can. So it was a really tough time. Our revenues were decreasing, our costs were flatlining / increasing at times. And we had a lot of staff. And so we just had to cut costs. So in all of 2017, while our revenues were declining, our profit was going up because we were getting so good at optimizing the business. So, in hindsight, it's a good thing. We've now set ourselves up from a cost basis wise to be a lot more efficient than we were a year and a half ago.
What's one area of efficiency that's resulted in big cost savings?
Figuring out what it takes to run one classroom unit. Like, what do you mean? Frankly, it's just letting go of different personnel that isn't crucial for a classroom
What
unit.
Did you think was crucial, but in retrospect is not?
We had a large engineering team at the time. I want to say 5-6 different people that were working on different projects that were going to be good infrastructure for the school. And they just never came to fruition. Like we all thought it was going to be
What's
good.
An infrastructure thing that you guys want?
So we built this thing called Showrunner. Tony built this thing called Showrunner. This is, it might be Tony's single largest contribution to the world. This thing is the best. It's pretty simple. It's an Asana system that dishes out. It's an automated Asana system that dishes out tasks to people who are supposed to do the tasks. So all of our staff, when they wake up in the morning, they have a task list assigned to them that, okay, you got to do this, 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 and this today. So it externalizes what you
automatically does that.
Yeah. Every night it'll dish out the tasks. So we structured everything into we have week 1, day 1. This is what happens. Week 1, day 2. This is what happens.
Of the class. And so somebody just fires it up, and then all the tasks go out to the right people. And it's called Showrunner because it runs the show at Hack Reactor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, that was, we started implementing that, all around our different schools. We're still implementing it. But that's an efficiency type of thing where now you need less people to, run a school because you don't need the person every day waking up and deciding what's everyone going to do. And each person can be a lot more efficient because they don't have to think about what they have to do. Like, it's so freeing when you don't have to make the decisions of what am I going to do today.
You know what? I'm looking at this article here. Asana did a case study on you guys.
They did?
I told you everything that you tell me, I have to go freaking check to see, what is Showrunner? Let me see. Showrunner. Yeah, here it goes. After using Asana's template feature to copy projects and processes, the Hack Reactor team added even more custom functionality through the API and created a program called Showrunner.
Whoa,
We've got this giant class template. We wrote a system with the Asana API that automatically copies over all the tasks needed for a new class and then automatically assigns those tasks we built on the API. And it allows us to assign repeatable tasks to the right people, all the right things at the right time. Every detail is covered. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I see it. And by the way, the word checklist, I think, is mentioned a couple of times in here, and other phrases that make it seem like, oh, this is just boring. It's not. Man, you're right. This is what gives you superpower as a company. But I found whenever I want to implement more checklists like this, people think, come on, don't tell me how to do my work. I'll give you an example. Man. Like we need if I'm doing a live event, I know that the chatbot that we have is going to get the most people to show up live at the same time. Now, anyone could create a chatbot. If I teach you how to do it, you could create it. It feels like I'm robbing you of your creativity, and I don't trust you if I say, all right, here is the checklist of the 5 things I need you to do to set up this chatbot. But it means that you're not going to screw up. And it means that if you come up with the 6th idea, that you're going to remember it the next time you have to create one of these. Tell me, was it hard for you guys to sell it internally?
Tony had done the hard work, so I didn't have to. It actually isn't hard to sell it internally anymore because people get it.
Now, once they see it, they love it, and then they become evangelists of it. But until they do, it's painful, right? It
is painful because you have to, the painful part is when you're building the template. Like, hey, what are you doing on this day? Tell me the task that you're doing.
And why is that difficult?
Because there's tones of like, you're taking my job away. Right. You're automating my job.
Right.
And why are you doing this?
And maybe you want to know so you could replace me with someone else because you're asking me what to do. Yeah.
Exactly. But you do it in like, you put someone in our classroom enough, and after like 1, maybe 2 cycles, they're like, holy shit, I never want to think about what I'm doing that day again. I want someone else to tell me what I'm supposed to do, because it is the same every time. Like we'll make improvements on it. Like we'll notice like, oh wait, we should do this thing on week 14, day 2 instead of this. And then we'll edit the Showrunner.
Yeah, right. That's the beauty too, that when you come up with, imagine you see a problem. Usually you see a problem, you go, someone should fix it. At some point we should fix it. Let's just make a note. Now, not make a note. Go frickin' to the checklist. Add item number 6.
Yeah, exactly. Have you read the Checklist Manifesto?
Yes, I did. You know what? I always thought I didn't need to read it. I got it from the title. What I ended up doing was getting the audiobook. The audiobook was pretty interesting. At times kind of, okay, I got it. But here, I got a few techniques from it. Did you read the book?
No.
So
I read the Cliff Notes.
You feel like you kind of get it. You read the Cliff Notes?
Yeah.
What service do you use to read Cliff Notes?
Cliff Notes.
Oh, Cliff Notes itself still operates? They're still in business?
It was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I haven't checked today.
I think the cliff notes are probably fine. One of the things that I got from it was I was over checklisting things where everything would have a lot of items. And he has this whole chapter about how I think it was Boeing helps their pilots in crisis by creating checklists that don't have every step. And the reason for that is if people feel like they have too many steps that they know, they're just not going to go reach for the checklist. It signals to them that they already know every item in the checklist. So why bother with this checklist? You don't need it. If it has just the key items that they need to know and they're likely to forget, they're more likely to go through the checklist and actually get it used. And the secret of these right checklists, especially in aviation, is to understand how to simplify it to the point where you have just the items that you want and none of the ones that are excessive and distracting from the ones that you want. And for me, I got so into checklists that I would checklist every step when what I should have also known was people are upset with this for a reason. It feels like a drag for a reason. I'm over checklisting it.
That makes sense.
That was one of my big insights from it.
Yeah. So, we got into a rabbit hole from the original question of like, what was the stuff that you were building? What was the engineering team building? So this was one of the useful things that we found the team was building, and they're making iterations on it, but just not really shipping it. And a lot of that's ultimately like that ends up being my fault. Like I should have done something about it, right? Tony should have done something about it, but also the people under Tony who were managed, everyone should have done something about it. But we never really had the jolt to audit and assess it until we were like, holy shit, we're going to run out of money. We have to assess every single thing that we're doing. We have to audit everything and make sure we're spending money effectively. And that was the jolt it took to audit, that portion of the business.
I get it. All right. Let me close out with this.
Yeah.
Why are you in charge? Anthony is a young guy. Anthony, he prefers to go by Tony, doesn't he? I'm very formal with him. Tony's a very young guy. He obviously still has energy. He's still involved in the business. How do you go from being the COO to suddenly running the thing? Why?
Tony and I talk about this a lot. There are things that he had to do. He had to work on getting better at, and that came naturally to me. And he was like, why the hell don't you just the great example is that conversation that I mentioned from Nick, that sexual harassment thing. Like, how do you bring that up with your manager? And it took me a couple tries and I was like, oh, maybe this is what you do. And it's not as mentally taxing for me to come up with that and then also to execute on that conversation. And it is mentally taxing for me to build Showrunner. And so Tony's skill set for stuff that naturally came, that came to him that was natural was different than mine, and mine overlapped more with the things that the company needed. Tony would be the first one to tell you this, but I'm better at giving feedback to people, both positive and negative, and it doesn't feel like an attack. When Tony did it and worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, somehow he would have a greater rate of people being mad at him or
really
not going. Yeah.
Okay.
It sucks because if you know Tony, there's nothing personal that there's nothing there that's malicious or anything. But not everyone picks up on that or knows that and has that context. So a lot of the conversations were really mentally taxing for him. Or when someone said something bad about him, so when someone left a bad review and mentioned his name or something, it was it was really tough on him. Really? Yeah.
I'm surprised. I would never have thought that he would care. I love it when people leave bad reviews about me.
Oh man.
Because I like the feedback. I feel like the only way you get feedback is if people really love you, which I love, or really hate you. Otherwise, if they're indifferent, I get nothing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think Tony would too.
But still, it's emotionally painful for some people.
Exactly. It's emotionally painful. And for me, it is, I think this is one area that Tony and I may be similar on. It is emotionally taxing for me, but I'm able to be like, fuck it. I did the best I could. And at the time that I had to make that decision about that thing, and fuck it. What the hell am I going to do? What good is it going to do for me to keep worrying about this? I'm going to go work on the next thing that's in front of me.
I have to get to, so that is something that I still wrestle with. I don't care if someone insults me or anything, but when I accept that I made a mistake, and I could correct it still. Even after correcting it, I still feel I have to get to the point where I say, screw it. You have to make a lot of decisions in business. Some of them are going to be bad. You yourself will regret them later on. But if you don't risk that regret, if you don't allow yourself to make mistakes that lead to regret, you're never going to move. Just move, try. I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, did I ask you what your revenues were? No, I didn't for Hack Reactor. Where are you guys now?
You did. We're just north of 20.
Just north of 20 as a company. So basically you're part of Hack Reactor. Maker Square, the thing in Austin, is roughly half the business.
Yeah.
Are you guys still acquiring companies? Are you ready? If someone in my audience has got a coding school and wants to partner up with you, you ready to do it?
We're a lot smarter about it now. We did a couple acquisitions that didn't go well, but we would be willing to do the evaluation.
Okay. All right. And you guys are opening up to anyone who wants to go sign up if they want to learn from Hack Reactor. What cities are you in?
Chicago.
I know what they are here. You go.
New York, Austin, LA, San Francisco, and then we have 2 remote locations.
And the remote are not learn at your own pace, watch these videos. They're, hey, dude, you're here with us.
It is honestly the best school on the internet.
Everything, it's supposed to be real time. You show up when we show up, be there.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was a time when my only job was to run the remote team.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not appreciate how good of a product it was until I ran the thing. One thing, Andrew, we're really shitty at marketing. We're really good at doing a good job with students and everything, but we just don't have that marketing DNA.
I accept that. I think you guys really are shitty at marketing. I think, yeah, you are. You're never as Hack Reactors, never part of the conversation. Never. The only time I ever see Hack Reactor, I'm in the freaking space. The only time I ever see Hack Reactor is I live in the mission. I see all these dudes with Hack Reactor. Here's where you're good at marketing. Your people will have a t-shirt and they care enough about the school and the program that they will wear it.
They love this place.
Right. And they love the place. Exactly. So that's the best thing. So I will see, now I'm dropping my kid off at school. I see some of the dads, or one of the dads at least has a Hack Reactor shirt or a hoodie or something. Mm-hmm. I see it on BART. That's the one big place. I'm frankly surprised that you guys even reached out to me and say, hey, you should interview, Harsh.
We're getting better. But anyway, that remote thing, it's the bomb. And, it doesn't, in our marketing material and stuff, it just doesn't come off that it's the bomb, when it really is. I haven't found a better school on the internet. Obviously I'm biased, but
I think also you guys are dealing there with, and at least with me, this is where I could be misunderstanding it. I at first thought remote meant online, learn at your own pace, and considered it on par with Treehouse. It's different from Treehouse. It's more of like the
I don't know
in-person.
what to call it. How do you name a synchronous face-to-face all day, every day video chat, program? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is a tough one. All right. You guys call it remote intent immersive. It's as close as I could come up with. I can't do a better job. If anyone's listening
that's got an idea, I am all ears.
Cool. What's a good way for them to reach you? I'm going to guess your email address. I don't know it offhand. It's going to be harsh@hackreactor.com.
That works. That's an alias to Harsh-Patel-at-HackReactor, but
got it.
It doesn't matter.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for being on here. It's hackreactor.com for anyone who wants to check it out. And frankly, if you guys are going to Baby Bathwater, email me so we could text each other before we go out there. I am so looking forward to the group of people who are going to be in there. Cameron, what's his name? Why am I forgetting the guy's last name? Cameron, the COO. He is the guy who basically convinced me I've got to go. Cameron Harold. He knows how to be a COO better than anyone else. He runs his whole COO organization. I don't freaking know how to lead people sometimes. I'm good at it sometimes. Sometimes I'm horrible at it. And he's the kind of person who I want to go meet over there. I don't know if he's going to this trip, but I know that if he's there and he's loving it and he's having real meaningful work-related conversations at Baby Bathwater, that's where I want to go. So if you're going to Baby Bathwater, first of all, go to babybathwater.com/Mixergy to apply. Chat with the people there. They're good people. They'll tell you whether you're not a good fit or not, and whether you're a good fit or not. And I hope to get to see you there. babybathwater.com/Mixergy. And if you want an intense developer or designer to come work for you, part-time, full-time, get a team of people, go to toptal.com/Mixergy. Harsh, thanks for being on here.
Thanks, Andrew.
Cool.